Hello and welcome to webinar number 4, Think and Grow Rich, the wonderful and unique book written by Napoleon Hill. Today is November 6, 2023. I could not believe it's less than 2 months before 2024. So please confirm that you could hear me and you could see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen and the cover.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on. I would like to start to read forward just one page, and then I will continue to ask to read Zoe Sergey, my friend and partner and assistant supervisor from Brooklyn. Forward. What do you want most? Is it money, fame, power, contentment, personality, peace of mind, happiness? The 13 steps to riches described in this book offer the shortest dependable philosophy of individual achievement ever presented for the benefit of the man or woman who is searching for the definite goal in life. So please continue.
Before beginning the book, you will profit greatly if you recognize the fact that the book was not written to entertain. You cannot digest the contents properly in a week or a month. After reading the book thoroughly, Dr. Miller Reese Hutchison, nationally known consulting engineer and long-time associate of Thomas A. Edison, said, "This is not a novel. It is a textbook on individual achievement that came directly from the experiences of hundreds of America's most successful men. It should be studied, digested, and meditated upon. No more than one chapter should be read in a single night. The reader should underline the sentences which impress him most. Later, he should go back to these marked lines and read them again. A real student will not merely read this book, he will absorb its contents and make them his own. This book should be adopted by all high schools, and no boy or girl should be permitted to graduate without having satisfactory passed an examination on it. This philosophy will not take the place of the subjects taught in schools, but it will enable one to organize and apply the knowledge acquired and convert it into useful service and adequate compensation without waste of time. Dr. John R. Turner, Dean of the College of the City of New York, after having read the book, said, "The very best example of the soundness of this philosophy is your own son, Blair, whose dramatic story you have outlined in the chapter on desire." Dr. Turner had reference to the author's son, who, born without normal hearing capacity, not only avoided becoming a deaf mute, but actually converted his handicap into a priceless asset by applying the philosophy here described. After reading the story, you will realize that you are about to come into possession of a philosophy which can be transmuted into material wealth or serve as readily to bring you peace of mind, understanding, spiritual harmony, and in some instances, as in the case of the author's son, it can help you master physical affliction. The author discovered, through personality analyzing hundreds of successful men, that all of them followed the habit of exchanging ideas through what is commonly called conferences. When they had problems to be solved, they sat down together and talked freely until they discovered from their joint contribution of ideas a plan that would serve their purpose. You who read this book will get most out of it by putting into practice the mastermind principle described in the book.
Thank you.
This
Hold on. Take a break, please. We will continue a little bit further. Hold on, please. Now I would like to ask to continue to read this section from the method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into the financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. Zoya, please take a break. I would like to ask to continue to read Isaac Gilbinovich, my friend and partner and supervisor from Brooklyn. Please go ahead, Isaac.
Good evening, everybody. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Be definite as to the amount. There is a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described in a subsequent chapter. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to acquire or accumulate it. You intend to accumulate it. Sixth, read your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. It is important that you follow the instructions described in the 6 steps. It is especially important that you observe and follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. You may complain that it is impossible for you to see yourself in possession of money before you actually have it. Here is where a burning desire will come to your aid. If you truly desire money so keenly that your desire is an obsession, you will have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you will achieve that you will acquire it. The object is to want money and to become so determined to have it that you convince yourself you will have it. Only
Hold
those
on, Isaac, that's it. Thank you for now. Thanks a lot. Take a break. I would like to share some additional information with you. I promised to do that last webinar. Let me share some pages with you. This is the page, right?
Yes.
So as you could see, it's a supervisor to manager. It was a manual from Forever Living Products in 2004. Let me share with you my personal story before I will ask Isaac to read it. In 2004, we joined Forever. 2011, I'm sorry, 2000, on March 11, 2004. By May, we accomplished, in the middle of May, we accomplished level of supervisor. And Boris convinced me to join him and Lila Krakovich and other people from Brooklyn, and not only from Brooklyn, in San Diego International Super Rally. It was very challenging for us to do so because our budget was very, very tight, I should say. I was out of work, and that time as a supervisor, you could not make even hundreds of dollars if you accomplish just level of supervisor in the middle of May. And whatever I did, I could not improve my performance. Up to August, my average case credits volume was about 25 cc on a monthly basis. It was very, very challenging for me to move forward for my personal reasons, as I should say. So in 2004, we arrived in San Diego. It was a still beautiful city on the West Coast, south of California. And it was absolutely great event. In all our international super rally, it was number one for us, and it's still in my memory, the best. And at this event, 3 days in a row, I was sitting in the room. We were sitting in the room with my wife, and I could not close, I could not even shut my mouth because everything was very, very super powerful. In Forever Store, I discovered the booklet, Supervisor to Manager. And it was, I tried to figure out what was the best way to discover. It was not just amazing, not just good. It was something very, very unusual. And I started to read it right when we were in San Diego and Raleigh. Isaac, I would like to ask, start to read this page, Go for the Gold.
Go for the gold. Congratulations on achieving supervisor level. Through your determination and well-directed effort, you have separated yourself from the crowd at the bottom of the ladder and are well on your way to the top where the position of manager waits for you. This manual is specifically designed to help you develop the skills and attitudes you will need for this prestigious position. As you increase the volume of your group, the basic rewards of the business increase proportionally. There are 4 rewards that you can look forward to enjoying as a forever living product manager. Money. Yes, there will be plenty of it, perhaps more than you ever dreamed possible. The marketing plan is designed to accommodate any level of ambition. It will pay out in proportion to the effort you put in. If you build your group following the principles outlined in this manual, you will have all the money you want, whether it is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions per year. Time. You will have the time to do what you want, when you want, and with whom you want. There's the time proven adage that when you use the law of multiplication, as in our marketing plan, at first you do a lot of work you don't get paid for, but later you get paid for a lot of work you don't do. The time will come when the volume of your downline group will overcome the effort you put in to set in the motion, and from then on, you are master of your time. To this also you can look forward when you become a manager. Recognition. Sure, you will sure you become recognized for becoming manager, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. There will be cars, international and world rallies, gem status, gem status, profit sharing, and much more. Satisfaction. When you receive your manager pin, you will be recognized for your success in helping others enjoy better health and wealth. This will give you a great feeling of self worth and of having contributed positively to society. For some distributors, this is more rewarding than the money, time, and recognition combined. So, when will you open the door to all these fantastic rewards? To a very large degree, the timing is up to you. Why not take a few moments right now and set a goal for the month and year you will achieve manager level?
Thank you,
I will.
Isaac.
Okay.
So there is my signature right here, not only my signature and my wife's signature right here too. Oops, you see, August 9, 2004, August 8, 2004. I will achieve the level of manager by October 31st, 2004. It was my goal. I was so desperate. I was on fire to accomplish this level of success, to be a supervisor. And go ahead of time, I could tell you that recognition, whatever it says here, we accomplish everything. Car bonus, profit share, etc., etc. It was not Eagle Manager yet in a company marketing plan. So there is another page I would like to share with you. Can you see this new page on screen, Isaac, please?
Yes.
Okay, you see, thank you. That was my commitment list. I will achieve manager level with at least 15 active distributors in my group no later than October 31st, 2004. I made a schedule. I made a date to accomplish this level. Number two, I will persist until I succeed, and then I will persist some more. I will talk, number three, I will talk with at least 2 new people about the products or the opportunity on everyday basis, every day. Number four, I will use the products daily on my own home. It was the easiest step, number four, of course. I will give at least 3 product demonstration every week. 6, I will give at least 3 opportunity presentation every week. 7, I will devote at least 50 hours every week on my FLP career. I devote and I put in much more than 50 hours. I will talk, excuse me, I will talk at least 5 of my distributors every day. I will read this commitment list every morning at 9. Do you remember number 6? I'm asking everybody. Do you remember
Yes.
in the book, number 6, read it twice a day, in the morning and at night. Thank you, Isaac. And I could have 2 witnesses, my wife and God, that I did read this commitment list twice a day, before go to bed, before well to sleep, and as soon as I wake up. And guess what? We accomplished level of manager not on October 31st. We accomplished level of manager on September 26th. In 5.5 months, we accomplished level of manager. And beginning the October, I already was in Scottsdale, Arizona on the training managers and beyond. That was, you see this proof, you see everywhere dates. August 11th, 2004, August 9, 2004. That's a proof. And I must tell you that at that time, I've got no clue about this book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. No idea that these books even exist. I want to share this again. Let me share right here. All right. It's a book. Create number 4. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. And number 6, read your written statement aloud twice a day, once just before retiring at night and once after rising in the morning. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. In my current situation, it was not a money, it was level of manager. So as usual, I say what I do what I say. I promise you to share this valuable information, and I did. And I am glad that I would able to share this with you guys. Take an example, and there is a valuable thing to share with you. It's a life example. And I accomplished this level of success in 5.5 months. And we have a people who accomplished this. And one more thing, not one more, a couple of things. At that time, we did not have webinars. We did not have seminars. I did not have even cell phone at that time. It's hard to believe, no cell phone. The product was delivered like in 7 to 10 business days at that time. It was different marketing plan, but I had a desire to accomplish this level of success. That's my story of 2004. If you have any question about this, I would be happy to answer any of them. Okay, let's continue to read this book when we stopped last time. Desire outwits Mother Nature. Isaac, please go ahead, proceed.
Thank you. Desire outwits Mother Nature. As a fitting climax to this chapter, I wish to introduce one of the most unusual persons I've ever known. I first saw him 24 years ago, a few minutes after he was born. He came into the world without any physical sign of ears, and the doctor admitted, when pressed for an opinion, that the child might be deaf and mute for life. I challenged the doctor's opinion. I had the right to do so. I was the child's father. I too reached a decision and rendered an opinion, but I expressed the opinion silently in a secrecy of my own heart. I decided that my son would hear and speak. Nature could send me a child without ears, but nature could not introduce me to accept the reality of the affliction.
I'm sorry, Isaac, not introducing Jews.
Induce me to accept the reality of the affliction. In my own mind, I knew that my son would hear and speak. How? I was sure there must be a way, and I knew I would find it. I thought of the world of the immortal Edison. I thought of the words of the immortal Edison. The whole course of things goes to teach us faith. We need only obey. There is guidance for each of us, and by lowly listening, we shall hear the right words. The right words? Desire. More than anything else, I desire that my son should not be a deaf mute. From that desire, I never receded, not for a second. Many years previously, I had written, our only limitations are those we set up in our own minds. For the first time, I wondered if that statement were true. Lying on the bed in front of me was a newly born child without the natural equipment of hearing. Even though he might hear and speak, he was obviously disfigured for life. Surely this was a limitation which the child had not set up in his own mind. What could I do about it? Somehow I would find a way to transplant into that child's mind my own burning desire for ways and means of conveying sound to his brain without the aid of ears. As soon as the child was old enough to cooperate, I would fill his mind so completely with a burning desire to hear that nature would, by method of her own, translate it into physical reality. All this thinking took place in my own mind, but I spoke of it to no one. Every day I renewed the pledge I had made to myself not to accept a deaf mute for a son. As he grew older and began to take notice of things around him, we observed that he had a slight degree of hearing. When he reached the age when children usually begin talking, he made no attempt to speak, but we would tell by his actions that he could hear certain sounds slightly. That was all I wanted to know. I was convinced that if he could hear even slightly, he might develop still greater hearing capacity. Then something happened which gave me hope. It came from an entirely unexpected source. We bought a Vitrola. When the child heard the music for the first time, he went into ecstasies and promptly appropriated the machine. He soon showed a preference for certain records. Among them, It's a Long Way to Tipperary. On one occasion, he played that piece over and over for almost 2 hours, standing in front of the Victrola with his teeth clamped on the edge of the case. The significance of this self-formed habit of his did not become clear to us until years afterward, for we had never heard of the principle of bone conduction of sound at that time. Shortly after he appropriated the Victrola, I discovered that he could hear me quite clearly when I spoke with my lips touching his mastoid bone or at the base of the brain. There, these discoveries placed in my possession the necessary media by which I began to translate into reality my burning desire to help my son develop hearing and speech. By the time he was making steps at speaking certain words, the outlook was far from encouraging, but desire backed by faith known no such word as impossible. Having determined that he could hear the sound of my voice plainly, I began immediately to transfer to his mind the desire to hear and speak. I soon discovered that the child enjoyed bedtime stories, so I went to work creating stories designed to develop in his self reliance, imagination, and keen desire to hear and to be normal. There was one story in particular which I emphasized by giving it some new and dramatic coloring each time it was told. It was designed to plant in his mind the thought that his affliction was not a liability, but an asset of great value. Despite the fact that all the phys- philosophy I had examined clearly indicated that every adversity brings with it the sense of an equivalent advantage. I must confess that I had not the slightest idea how this affliction could ever become an asset. However, I continued my practice of wrapping that philosophy in bedtime stories, hoping the time would come when he would find some plan by which his handicap could be made to serve some useful purpose. Reason told me plainly that there was no adequate compensation for the lack of ears and natural hearing equipment. Desire, backed by faith, pushed reason aside and inspired me to carry on. As I analyze the experience in responses, I can see now that my son's faith in me had much to do with the astounding results. He did not question anything I told him. I sold him the idea that he had a distinct advantage over his older brother, and that this advantage would reflect itself in many ways. For example, the teachers in school would observe that he had no ears, and because of this, they would show him special attention and treat him with extraordinary kindness. They always did. His mother saw to that by visiting the teachers and arranging with them to give the child the extra attention necessary. I sold him the idea to that when he became old enough to sell newspapers. His older brother has already become a newspaper merchant. He would have a big advantage over his brother for the reason that people would pay him extra money for his wages because they could see that he was a bright, industrious boy, despite the fact he had no ears. We could
Isaac,
notice
take a
that.
break. Thank you very much for your reading. Take a break, please. And I would like continue to read. Friend and most reliable manager from New Jersey, Iris Cristobal. Iris, please go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Isaac. We could notice oh, we could notice that gradually the child's hearing was improving. Moreover, he had not the slightest tendency to be self-conscious because of his affliction. When he was about 7, he showed the first evidence that our method of servicing his mind was bearing fruit. For several months, he begged for the privilege of selling newspapers, but his mother would not give her consent. She was afraid that his deafness made it unsafe for him to go on the street alone. Finally, he took the matters in his own hands. One afternoon, when he was left home with the servants, he climbed through the kitchen window, shinnied to the ground, and set out on his own. He borrowed 6 cents in capital from the neighborhood shoemaker, invested it in papers, sold out, reinvested, and kept repeating until late in the evening. After balancing his accounts and paying back the 6 cents he had borrowed from his banker, he had net profit of 42 cents. When we got home that night, we found him in his bed asleep with the money tightly clenched in his hand. His mother opened his hand, removed the coins, and cried. Of all things, crying over her son's first victory seems so inappropriate. My reaction was the reverse. I laughed heartily, for I knew that my endeavor to plant in the child's mind an attitude of faith in himself had been successful. His mother saw, in his first business venture, a little deaf boy who had gone out in the streets and risked his life to earn money. I saw a brave, ambitious, self-reliant little businessman whose stock in himself had been increased 100% because he had gone into business on his own initiative and had won. The transaction pleased me because I knew they had given evidence of a trait of resourcefulness that would go with him all through life. Later events proved this to be true. When his older brother wanted something, he would lie down on the floor, kick his feet in the air, and cry for it, and get it. When the little deaf boy wanted something, he would plan a way to earn the money, then buy it for himself. He still follows that plan. Truly, my own son has taught me that handicaps can be converted into stepping stones on which one may climb toward some worthy goal, unless they are accepted as obstacles and used as alibis. The little deaf boy went through the grades, high school and college without being able to hear his teacher excepting when they shouted loudly at close range. He did not go to school for the deaf. We would not permit him to learn the sign language. We were determined that he should live a normal life and associate with normal children, and we stood by that decision, although it caused us many heated debates with school officials. While he was in high school, he tried an electrical hearing aid, but it was of no value to him, due, we believe, to a condition that was disclosed when the child was 6 by Dr. J. Gordon Wilson of Chicago, when he operated on one side of the boy's head and discovered that there was no sign of natural hearing equipment. During his last week in college, 18 years after the operation, something happened which marked the most important turning point of his life. Through what seems to be mere chance, he came into possession of another electrical hearing device, which was sent to him on trial. He was slow about testing it, due to his disappointment with a similar device. Finally, he picked the instrument up and more or less carelessly placed it on his head, hooked up the battery, and lo, as if by stroke of magic, his lifelong desire for normal hearing became a reality. For the first time in his life, he learned practically as well as any person with normal hearing. God moves in mysterious ways. His wonders to perform. Overjoyed because of the changed world which had been brought to him through his hearing device, he rushed to the telephone, called his mother, and heard her voice perfectly. The next day he plainly heard the voices of his professors in class. For the first time in his life, previously he could hear them only when they shouted at short range. He heard the radio, he heard the talking pictures. For the first time in his life, he could converse freely with other people without the necessity of their having to speak loudly. Truly, he had come into possession of a changed world. We had refused to accept nature's error, and, by persistent desire, we had induced nature to correct that error through only practical means available. Desire had commenced to pay dividends, but the victory was not yet complete. The boy still had to find a definite and practical way to convert his handicap into an equivalent asset. Hardly realizing the significance of what had already been accomplished, but intoxicated with the joy of his newly discovered world of sound, he wrote a letter to the manufacturer of the hearing aid, enthusiastically describing his experience. Something in his letter, something, perhaps which was not written on the lines, but back of them, caused the company to invite him to New York. When B arrived, he was escorted through the factory, and while talking with the chief engineer, telling him about his changed world, a hunch, an idea, or an inspiration, call it what you wish, flashed into his mind. It was this impulse of thought which converted his affliction into an asset, destined to pay dividends in both money and happiness to thousands for all time to come. The sum and substance that of impulse of thought was this. It occurred to him that he might be of help to the millions of deafened people who go through life without the benefit of hearing devices, if he could find a way to tell them the story of his changed world. Then and there, he reached a decision to devote the remainder of his life to rendering useful service to the hard of hearing. For an entire month, he carried on intensive research, during which he analyzed the entire marketing system of the manufacturer of the hearing device and created ways and means of communicating with the hard of hearing all over the world for the purpose of sharing with them his newly discovered changed world. When this was done, he put in writing a 2-year plan based upon his findings. When he presented the plan to the company, he was instantly given a position for the purpose of carrying out his ambition.
Iris, thank you very much for your reading. Please take a break. I would like to continue to read my friend and partner and assistant supervisor from Brooklyn, Zoya Sergey. Please go ahead, Zoya.
Little did he dream when he went to work that he was destined to bring hope and practical relief to thousands of deafened people who, without his help, would have been doomed forever to deaf mutism. Shortly after he became associated with the manufacturer of his hearing aid, he invited me to attend a class conducted by his company for the purpose of teaching deaf mutes to hear and to speak. I had never heard of such a form of education. Therefore, I visited the class skeptical but hopeful that my time would not be entirely wasted. Here I saw a demonstration which gave me a greatly enlarged vision of what I had done to arouse and keep alive in my son's mind the desire for normal hearing. I saw deaf mutes actually being taught to hear and to speak through application of the self-same principle I had used more than 20 years previously in saving my son from deaf mutism. Thus, through some strange turn of the wheel of fate, my son Blair and I have been destined to aid in correcting deaf mutism for those as yet unborn, because we are the only living human beings, as far as I know, who have established definitely the fact that deaf mutism can be corrected to the extent of restoring to normal life those who suffer with this affliction. It had been done for one. It will be done for others. There is no doubt in my mind that Blair would have been a deaf mute all his life if his mother and I had not managed to shape his mind as we did. The doctor who attended at his birth told us confidentially the child might never hear or speak. A few weeks ago, Dr. Irving Voorhees, a noted specialist on such cases, examined Blair very thoroughly. He was astounded when he learned how well my son now hears and speaks, and said his examination indicated that theoretically the boy should not be able to hear at all, but the lad does hear, despite the fact that X-ray pictures show there is no opening in the skull whatsoever from where his ears should be to the brain. When I planted in his mind the desire to hear and talk, the life as a normal person, there went with that impulse some strange influence which caused nature to become bridge builder and span the gulf of silence between his brain and the outer world, by some means which the keenest medical specialists have not been able to interpret. It would be sacrilege for me to even conjecture as to how nature performed this miracle. It would be unforgivable if I neglected to tell the world as much as I know of the humble part I assumed in the strange experience. It is my duty and a privilege to say, I believe, and not without reason, that nothing is impossible to the person who backs desire with enduring faith. Verily, a burning desire has devious ways of transmuting itself into its physical equivalent. Blair desired normal hearing. Now he has it. He was born with a handicap which might easily have sent one with a less defined desire to the street with a bundle of pencils and a pin cup. That handicap now promises to serve as the medium by which he will render useful service to many millions of hard of hearing, also to give him useful employment at adequate financial compensation the remainder of his life. The little white lies I planted in his mind when he was a child by leading him to believe his affliction would become a great asset which he could capitalize has justified itself. Verily, there is nothing, right or wrong, which belief plus burning desire cannot make real. These qualities are free to everyone. In all my experience in dealing with men and women who had personal problems, I never handled a single case which more definitely demonstrates the power of desire. Authors sometimes make the mistake of writing of subjects in which they have but superficial or very elementary knowledge. It has been my good fortune to have had the privilege of testing the soundness of the power of desire through the affliction of my own son. Perhaps it was providential that the experience came as it did, for surely no one is better prepared than he to serve as an example of what happens when desire is put to the test. If Mother Nature bends to the will of desire, it is logical that mere man can defeat a burning desire. Strange and imponderable is the power of the human mind. We do not understand the method by which it uses every circumstance, every individual, every physical thing within its reach as a means of transmuting desire into its physical counterpart. Perhaps science will uncover this secret. I planted in my son's mind the desire to hear and to speak as any normal person hears and speaks. That desire has now become a reality. I planted in his mind the desire to convert his greatest handicap into his greatest asset. That desire has been realized. The modus operandi by which this astounding result was achieved is not hard to describe. It consisted of 3 very definite facts. First, I fixed faith with a desire for normal hearing, which I passed on to my son. Second, I communicated my desire to him in every conceivable way available through persistent, continuous effort over a period of years. Third, he believed me. As this chapter was being completed, news came of the death of Madame Schumann Haig. One short paragraph in the news dispatch gives the clue to this unusual woman's stupendous success as a singer. I quote this paragraph because the clue it contains is none other than desire. Early in her career, Madame Schumann Haig visited the director of the Vienna Court Opera to have him test her voice, but he did not test it. After taking one look at the awkward and poorly dressed girl, he exclaimed none too gently, "With such a face, and with no personality at all, how can you ever expect to succeed in opera? How, how can you ever expect to succeed in opera? My good child, give up the idea. Buy a sewing machine and go to work. You can never be a singer." Never is a long time. The director of the Vienna Court Opera knew much about the technique of singing. He knew little about the power of desire when it assumes the proportion of an absorption. If he had known more of that power, he would not have made the mistake of condemning genius without giving it an opportunity. Several years ago, one of my business associates became ill. He became worse as time went on, and finally was taken to the hospital for an operation. Just before he was wheeled into the operating room, I took a look at him and wondered how anyone as thin and emaciated as he could possibly go through a major operation successfully. The doctor warned me that there was little, if any, chance of my ever seeing him alive again. But that was the doctor's opinion. It was not the opinion of the patient. Just before he was wheeled away, he whispered feebly, do not be disturbed, Chief. I will be out of here in a few days." The attending nurse looked at me with pity, but the patient did come through safely. After it was all over, his physician said nothing but his own desire to live saved him. He never would have pulled through if he had not refused to accept the possibility of death. I believe in the power of desire backed by faith, because I have seen this power lift men from lowly beginnings to places of power and wealth. I have seen it rob the grave of its victims. I have seen it serve as the medium by which men staged a comeback after having been defeated in 100 different ways. I have seen it provide my own son with a normal, happy, successful life, despite nature's having sent him into the world without ears. How can one harness and use of power desire? This has been answered through this and the subsequent chapters of this book. This message is going out to the world at the end of the longest and perhaps the most devastating depression America has ever known. It is reasonable to presume that the message may come to the attention of many who have been wounded by the depression, who have lost their fortunes, others who have lost their positions, and great numbers who must reorganize their plans and stage a comeback. To all these, I wish to convey the thought that all achievement, no matter what may be its nature or its purpose, must begin with an intense, burning desire for something definite. Through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never divulged, nature wraps up the impulse of strong desire, that something which recognizes no such word as impossible and accepts no such reality as failure. Faith.
Thank you. No, let's hold on. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Iris. I would like to open discussion. We read super powerful chapter of this wonderful book. What would you like to share? Any volunteers? How's the Blair's story? Any impression on anybody?
Yes, these stories are so impressive, really impressive. So I think they're very good examples for those who loses their faith and like so easy. Not they don't have, for example, strength to achieve something they wanted. So first of all, you have to put the target, what you want, then to have this strong desire not to lose this desire in any circumstances, and to be backed up with the faith. So these examples are very interesting and they're very impressive. They're good examples for everyone in life, in any situations of the life, I think.
All right, thank you, Zoe. Anybody else?
It's very inspiring, like those stories, like you almost like impossible, like, especially the one without the hearing equipment. So it's, but in the end, it's all successful, and all the hard, the one that he was saying that the white lies made the child believe like all the things that will become grand, and he achieved it at the end as an adult. It's very impressive, and shows you the power of thinking and growing rich.
Thank you, Iris. Thanks a lot. It's hard to imagine what parent could feel when they discover of the possibility for the baby just born to have future like that. And this example, absolutely amazing. And I will have some other story by next webinar about one of our friends and their child story. We will share with you next time. Any questions, any comments so far? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, readers. Iris, Zoe, and Isaac, good night, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
Thanks a
much.
lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.